Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Ruhle. You're watching MSNBC. If at first you don't succeed, just renominate. President Trump has resubmitted 21 judicial nominees to the Senate, including 2 who were rated not qualified to be federal judges by the American Bar Association. The Huffington Post points out some of the nominees are, quote, hostile to LGBTQ rights, abortion, and African-American voting rights. Let's get my panel to weigh in on this. Matt Welch, Jason Johnson. Matt, Judge Charles Goodwin and Holly Teeter received a not qualified rating. Why would the president bring them back up? This is a lifetime appointment. How does this reflect well on the president?
It does, and it's genuinely baffling, especially since we've started to see Republicans like Chuck Grassley start to toss some of these people back, saying, hey, look, this isn't, you got to do better than this. They have a huge number. I mean, it's almost an unprecedented number of judicial appointments that, that they're shuffling through right now. Mitch McConnell, when you talk to him in a private setting, says, we're in the personnel business. We're sitting here, we're trying to process judges right now. So they better do that job well. They have, generally speaking, conservative circles of all the fears of Donald Trump, including the fear of choosing terrible judges. They've done, generally speaking, from a conservative point of view, a pretty good job up till now.
A pretty good job if white males are what you're looking for. Because
no, not necessarily. I mean, there's some good jurists there. Neil Gorsuch is a very well-respected jurist. People like Don Willett. There are some good, qualified people there.
Neil Gorsuch is a white guy.
I'm a white guy. There's white guys in the world. They sit in places. They direct movies sometimes too. It's part of the mix.
Yes, white guys are part of the mix. I'm not saying that they're not. Jason, how much of a risk is it, or how much of a problem is it for a Democrat like you? These are lifetime appointments. Policies can come and go with each administration. Once these judges are in their seat, and if you think about all the things that they touch in our lives, it's a lot.
I say this all the time. Well, I'm certainly not a libertarian. I have not been a Democrat for a long time, but I am someone who believes in basic American justice. And here's the problem. I have no problem with every single president of the United States picking the kinds of people who reflect their ideology. Heck, I wish the previous administration that the Republicans had allowed more of Obama's judicial nominees to go through, which is part of why they have this backlog now, because they blocked so many of his. But the problem with the people that Trump is selecting is they don't appear, it's not just that people aren't qualified, but their motivations seem to be more ideological than judicial. Their motivations seem to be, look, I want to make sure that these people don't participate in government. I want to make sure that government limits the opportunities for these people. That's not what we want in a jurist. We want a jurist, someone who's going to interpret the Constitution in a way that helps all American people. When you've got somebody who wrote an amicus curiae brief, in North Carolina for a law that surgically removed black people from the voting rolls, and everyone knows that it was thrown out by the Supreme Court, why are you nominating that person to be a judge? That's the problem I have with the kind of people that Trump is selecting.
There are other people who have been engaged in similar activities who are now being appointed to places like the basically de facto head of the Census Bureau right now is someone whose life has been writing books and doing redistricting work to try to bundle people in districts. This is not necessarily the intellectual background that you want in positions that are arbitrating over everybody here, and that's a worrying trend, not just in the judiciary, but in other aspects of the Trump administration.
I want to ask you, we've heard so much from the president throughout the last year about the coal industry and bringing it back. We've now seen Rick Perry had a plan out there. How are we going to subsidize these coal plants to really help keep them afloat? And now regulators, mostly appointed by President Trump, has said, no bueno, doesn't work economically, doesn't work environmentally, not happening. Yeah. How big of a blow could that be to the president?
I don't know. I mean, everyone knew who's paid attention that saying you're going to bring back coal is nonsense sandwich. I mean, you're just not going to bring back coal.
But it's not nonsense sandwich, because think about those rallies that the president held in Trump country. They became commercials. They became sort of the word we heard across this country.
Absolutely. But you were never going to bring coal back. As soon as the price of natural gas and fracking gets to a level, coal just doesn't make any sense. And we have a great story to tell. In addition to producing, becoming a net exporter of fuel for the first time in a really long time, it's also reducing carbon in a way that coal just doesn't. It's a good story to tell.
Not to mention the number of coal jobs that have disappeared is dwarfed by the number of retail worker jobs that continue to disappear, and that number is only going up.
As we always say, if you're explaining, you're not campaigning, right? none of these explanations are going to make any coal worker feel better when they're losing their job. Just like none of these explanations make any coal workers feel better when they're getting black lung or getting sick or dying inside mines because there's poor regulation. But you've got the political problem, you've got the practical economic problem. The practical economic problem is you've only got 70-something thousand people spread across several states who are engaging in this job. It's more symbolic than the actual number of people who are changing the economy. But on a political level, look, the elasticity of Trump supporters is immense, And when in doubt, whenever someone says, hey, what have you done for coal workers? He could say, I would do more if it weren't for those Republicans in the Senate and the House who won't go along with my legislation. And that's always his defense. No matter what Trump doesn't accomplish, he can always find someone else to blame.
And tacking on to that, both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton had said things about the coal industry that people who worked within it felt like, oh, they're targeting us. They're not on our side. Trump is signaling, I am on your side, regardless of policy. Right. So much of politics is experienced and consumed on a kind of empathy at this point. Obama, for the same reasons, for the most part, will feel like he's one of us, the other guy wasn't.
Right. All right, well, you know who President Trump is on the side of? KT McFarland, back on the scene. Now, you know, we had heard she was going to be nominated to be the U.S. ambassador to Singapore. That was sort of put on hold. It's back on. There have been questions by congressional investigators connected to KT McFarland and the Russia probe. Remember, she was so closely tied to Mike Flynn. I have spoken to people in the White House who've said all of those people during the Mike Flynn era, they're gone. We need to start anew. We need to start fresh. When Dina Powell joined the White House, many said this is going to be the first sign that the Dina Powells of the world are moving in and the KT's out. Well, now Dina's out and KT's back. What does that say? President Trump says the Russia investigation is a hoax. Well, bringing back KT McFarland would support that idea that the president isn't worried about it.
I think she might be in some trouble with getting a nomination confirmed. That's going to be difficult during an ongoing investigation.
Then why do it?
I think one of the reasons why you do it, I mean, wouldn't do it myself. One of the reasons why he is doing it is because Trumpist foreign policy isn't a thing. There aren't many people that you can say, yeah, he more or less has the kind of foreign policy that Donald Trump wants. It's one of the reasons why you have Mike Flynn in the first place. Mike Flynn, everyone knew, was not the sharpest tool in the drawer, but his system of beliefs kind of lined up with Donald Trump in a way that you just can't find in the think tanks and the kind of policy establishment in Washington. KT is like that as well. That's the only explanation that I can come up with.
Or is it that the president doesn't like to move on? He doesn't like to say, I was wrong, I'm going to go in a different direction. It takes a big person to do that.
And he doesn't want to feel like he's ever been blocked. He's going to push this through, and he's going to see who's loyal to him and who isn't. Who's going to go on the air and fight on behalf of him and make a fool of themselves in order to make him look strong.
The answer to that is Stephen Miller.
Exactly. Yes, but that's what he's looking for. He's looking for the people who are willing to fall on the sword, fall down the stairs, and catch themselves on fire on his behalf. And this is someone he believes will do that. And if Trump has to burn down the rest of his administration and embarrass tons of Republicans in order to do that, he still wants that level of loyalty. That's why you see people like this coming back.
And it's also why you see, you know, the beginnings of cabinet meetings or Camp David retreats that start with ritual that the president is really great about this and about this. You get into his inner circle by flattering. Lindsey Graham is his best buddy now somehow because he said he's a good golfer. It's crazy, but that's part of the deal.
Fantastic golfer with the best golf courses. All right, we're going to leave it there. Coming up for the first time.